My whole thing was always, I just wanted to prove to myself that I was world class. World class for me meant being ranked in the top 10 in the world. And so pushing to getting to world championships, getting to the Olympics, that kind of stuff, going overseas, going to Diamond League races, racing on a consistent basis, it was all about proving that you deserve to be there.
That was LaVonne Idlette, former professional track and field athlete. Her intense desire to prove herself against the very best in the world propelled her to the London Olympics in 2012. She was a relatively late bloomer for the track world, as she only started seriously running in high school. While part of a strong team at Hampton University, it wasn't until Idlette learned to embrace an intense training regimen that she reached her peak as an athlete. 1 million high school student athletes compete in track events every year in America, and only a few hundred of them will make it to the Olympics every 4 years. Those are some seriously long odds. On this show, we will tell you about the amazing people that have beat the odds to make it at the highest level of sports. LaVonne Idlette was born in 1985 in Hampton, Virginia on a military base. She spent most of her time with her mother, stepfather, and siblings in Hampton, but she also built a strong relationship with her father in Florida.
Growing up, I lived with my mother and my stepfather, and I have two little brothers that live with me. And my father lived all over the place. When I was a kid, he went back to college, and he was also in the military, which is why he was there. And so growing up, I would like fly to Florida to visit his family every summer. And so I grew an affinity for flying. I was an unaccompanied minor from 3 years old.
Idlette had this to say about the neighborhood in Virginia where she grew up.
You know, we lived in a big house in the hood. So apparently we were doing okay. And my neighbors were poor. I had no idea because I played with them outside all the time. You know, back then everybody played outside with each other, and we ran and played all the games. And then when I was in high school, we moved to what would be considered the suburbs, where like kids didn't really play outside. It was like weird. And so I would say that we were like middle class, normal, more or less.
The Idlette family was jam-packed with athletes.
Everybody in my family's an athlete. My grandfather played basketball and football. My grandmother played basketball. My father played basketball, football, and track. My mom played softball. And my grandmother on her side ran track. So a bunch of athletes.
From a young age, Idlette always wanted to be a dermatologist, but an awkward first patient encounter in college ended that thought. However, a chance airport meeting in 1996 planted the seeds for her second dream job.
The Olympics, I first found out about it flying as an unaccompanied minor, 10 years old, in Atlanta on a layover. So, because when you're unaccompanied, they move you around with the people who work in the airport. So I end up being escorted with Stevie Wonder, who's going to sing at the Olympics. And that was my first time hearing about the Olympics.
Idlette attended Bethel High School in Hampton, Virginia. She describes it this way.
Bethel High School is a really small space school for the amount of kids. So we had like 2,500 kids. Every class had a little bit more than 500, which means that we had like a trailer park outside. It was like 16 trailers. Overall, though, it's a military town, so people kind of make the same money. Like in comparison to how I hear other people grew up, it sounds like Pleasantville.
In the sport of track and field in the United States, young talent is usually identified early. Young runners work with elite trainers and compete every summer on the AAU circuit. This is the path many future Olympians take. Idlette had a very different journey.
I literally tried to do every single thing in high school. Like high school owes me nothing. I was a class president. I ran track. I was in the band. I was a cheerleader. I played basketball.
Entering high school with less track experience than most elite runners made for a difficult start for Idlette.
High school track was a humbling experience for me because growing up, I was always leaps and bounds faster than the other kids. But when I got to high school, I was on the state champion team that was top ranked in the country. We had real runners, people who really know what they were doing. I couldn't win anything. I'm talking about not a rep of a workout, nothing. So I asked my coach, like, what can I win? This isn't fun. And so he's like, you want to try hurdles? And I'm like, sure.
That idea from Idlette's high school coach would shape the next 10 years of her life. She started dedicating herself to jump events from that time forward.
So I started off doing hurdles, then the long jump, then the triple jump, then the high jump. Next thing you know, I'm doing every single event in high school.
Idlette was now off to the races with her Bethel High track team.
You could tell the difference right away of like how you prepare when you expect to win versus like, just participating. And so I was really glad to be on that team and to be there. But my sophomore year, I made an immediate impact. I scored in the triple jump and the long jump and in the hurdles. And I had found my way. Basically, I felt like, I'm where I'm supposed to be now.
It wasn't all smooth sailing that sophomore year for Idlette. Jump events sometimes means falling, and fall she did.
At practice, I fell and actually still have a scar under my eye from this fall on this concrete. So I had no skin on one side of my face at all. It was really traumatic.
Falling and skin damage was just the beginning of the high school obstacles that Idlette faced. A well-intentioned move by her track coach backfired in the worst possible way and nearly ended Idlette's promising track career.
After my sophomore year, I showed promise. So my coach hired a coach to coach me because I didn't really have a hurdle coach. He was just like a guy and he coaches and he knows stuff. So he's like, I know enough to know I can't teach you what you need to know. Hires a lady to come and coach me in the hurdles. This woman, for some reason, was ridiculously aggressive towards me verbally and everything. So she would just be talking trash to me. And I'm just giving her everything she wants. She said she can beat me. I'm like, okay, line up. Then I beat her, of course, because she's like not an old lady, but she's not a young lady either. So then after that makes her mad. She can't figure out a way to control me.
That foot race was not enough to establish trust and respect between the teacher and the student on the track. Things got worse from here.
Certain coaches have that thing where they feel like they have to dominate you. It wasn't working. So one day she said something, I said something, and she pushed me up against the wall. And so I was like, I don't have to take this. I'm going to play basketball. And so I went and started summer league basketball early and didn't go to the regional meet, didn't go to the state meet. We ended up not winning that year, actually, which was like a big deal.
Fortunately, Idlette had a change of heart and worked her way back to the team for her senior year.
Over the summer, though, I did decide that I wanted to run track again. Track practice starts the first day of school. And so the assistant coach tells me, like, you are not welcome back on this team unless you apologize to the team for letting them down, for leaving them hanging.
Idlette did the hard thing that day and apologized to the team. The abusive assistant coach was gone, and Idlette and the team went back to winning her senior year.
I did so much in high school. Like, there's a big picture on the wall at my high school, which is my real claim to fame, that my picture's the same size as Allen Iverson at my high school.
After being recruited to run track at SEC, Big Ten, and Ivy League schools in college, Idlette made the call to stay close to home and enroll at Hampton University in 2003, a historically black college just down the street. The head coach at Hampton, Maurice Pierce, was married to one of Bethel High's assistant coaches, and he had formed a strong bond with Idlette as he watched her advance through high school.
So I get dropped off at the dorm. Then I get the first wild awakening that I go to a HBCU. It didn't have no air condition in this dorm. There was no elevator in this dorm. As far as I'm concerned, I'm like, where am I? And, but it was a good time. Like we had a very big community of like, just nice people. Like with the freshman orientation, you get partnered with like big brothers and big sisters, and those people like guide you around, and you have like a little crew. That was pretty fun.
Coach Pierce had built a formidable team, which included future Olympic medalist Kelly Wells, who was already at the school. Wells is a few years older than Idlette and would figure prominently in her future pro track career. Wells had this to say about Coach Pierce.
He's phenomenal. Like, he becomes like a dad slash big brother to all of us. So, you know, he encouraged our free thinking and he encouraged our independence. You know, there's a bunch of us that came from the team that come from like broken homes or, you know, didn't know their fathers, and he just filled that role.
With Idlette and the other new recruits on board, the Hampton team was ready to dominate. However, Idlette quickly learned that the competition at collegiate track was a level up from high school, which only drove her harder.
The best thing was that I came in with a squad. So basically, my freshman year was my coach's first year as a head coach. So he had handpicked us from, and we were really good. And so we came in and we really supported each other. Indoor, I didn't do that well. I was the 4th ranked in the conference, but because you can only run 3 at the time in the conference, I couldn't run the hurdles. I had to run the 60, a mess. And, and I didn't do the pentathlon that year. So I just did my one little poor effort at the 60 and told myself I'll never be in this position again. And that it literally never happened again.
Idlette came back stronger, worked hard, and helped the Hampton University women's track team reach new heights.
We were very good in the conference. So we always won the conference. And then we would always qualify people to nationals. And we were the first HBCU to be ranked in the top 10. And then we did that twice. And so it was like, we were putting something together.
While at Hampton, Idlette got exposure to Olympic runners who had turned track into a full-time career after college. She realized this was her new dream job and set about to find a coach and place to train after graduation in 2007. She relocated to South Florida and enrolled in graduate school, eventually earning her MBA from Nova Southeastern University. While in Miami, she met Tony Dees, a former Olympic hurdler. He was coaching track pros and wanted Idlette in his program.
I met a guy named Tony Dees, and he's like, I think you're going to be really good. I want to train you. And I'm like, what do you know about the heptathlon? Mind you, he ran the 110 hurdles, and he was a silver medalist.
While clearly qualified, Coach Tony Dees was an old-school, hard-nosed coach. Wells had this to say about him.
Tony is crazy. He's still crazy. He will always be crazy. He was crazy as a hurdler. And then Tony and our coach Dennis were, you know, close. They knew each other. So like, they're like literally nuts.
Coach Dees was the type of in-your-face coach that Idlette had clashed with in high school. When she got to his training facility, Idlette was not in elite physical shape, and Coach Dees was merciless.
I run behind his car because he told me I was too fat to get on his track. So I had to run behind his car for 2 months. It was so embarrassing. I would have people come in to visit me, and he would ride them in the car, and I would run behind his car. He'd beat the horn. That means I have to run faster. It was horrible. But that was the transition that I needed.
While incredibly tough, Coach Dees could also be supportive and definitely believed that Idlette had greatness in her. But he made it clear that Idlette would have to train at an elite level if she was going to be elite on the track when it counted most.
He's like, I think you're good. I think you're good. However, you don't have a world record, so I don't even know why you're trying to give me advice on what your workout should be. So hard. It was really hard.
Kelly Wells describes how Coach Dees made a positive impact on Idlette's mindset.
Tony definitely tapped that into her of like helping her believe in herself and knowing that like track, athletics, life is really hard. And if you don't push past that ceiling that you've set for yourself, you'll never see your true potential. So, you know, Tony was there for her for that.
Coach Dees got Idlette connected with Nike and helped her pay for her training and travel. But he was still incredibly hard on her.
He's like, I think you can make it, you know, just, he's very positive, and we're working on it. He cusses me out every day. Like, but I'm by myself with him And so it's other people who train on this track, and they would be running up to me and like, while I'm doing my workout, I'll say something like, it'll be okay. Because they think he's just an abusive boyfriend or something.
Professional track is not like other team sports. Most athletes are not signed to a running team. They effectively work for themselves. Runners like Idlette have to pay for their own training and living expenses. She made money on the side flipping condos in a hot Miami market. Eventually, she signed with an agent and started to earn a living racing. Many track pros are paid appearance fees to run in events, mostly overseas, based on their standing in the international racing community. Idlette toured around Europe on what she calls the Chitlin circuit, starting in 2009.
So I was paying him a monthly like fee or whatever. But so then you get I had an agent, and the agent finds races that want you to come to them, and then you get a travel budget, and they put you in a hotel and that kind of stuff. So at the time, we're gonna call this the Chitlin circuit. So I would get a ticket, and they would fly me to Europe, and then I would have a bag, and I would take trains between countries and go to little races. And I'm just trying to find my way, chugging along, trying to make the standard for world championships in Berlin.
For Idlette to truly reach her potential as a runner, a change was in order. She reconnected with her friend and former Hampton teammate Kelly Wells, who encouraged Idlette to come to Orlando in 2010 to train with a coach and a group of runners there. Idlette also enrolled at law school in Florida A&M around that time.
And she trained in Orlando. And so she's training in this group with a coach, Dennis Mitchell. And she's like, I think you should come here to train. I think it'll be a good place for you. And she had been running so fast. Like, she had run 12:58. And in college, she was a good athlete turned into greatness, like by being in this group. So I'm like, he must be a great coach. And so I come home from Europe that year, and then I decide that I'm going to move to Orlando.
Things really started to take off for Idlette with the new training group just outside Orlando in Claremont, Florida. They helped her learn how to be great at the sport.
So I get to Claremont. It's a group. It's 5 hurdle girls, and at the time, and then there's probably 6 or 7 sprinters. It's a big group, all pros though. They're so serious that it like intimidates me to a point. But it was the best thing that I could have done for my professional career, because I learned how to be good. Kelly is, she's probably the best training partner that anybody could ever have, because she's going to lead the way no matter what. She could feel bad. She's going to push you every day. And because she really knew me, she helped me get through the first year. Because the first couple workouts, I was like, I don't know if track is for me. I'm really having second thoughts. Fall training for any sprinter makes you think about going to be a car salesman, because it's just hard for no reason.
Wells said that Coach Mitchell was exactly the person Idlette needed to reach her true potential.
Dennis really changed her life on the track. Because when you're with him, he'll push you to the limits of yourself. Like, you really feel like, oh my God, I think I'm about to die or be great. I'm not sure. Like, it's a coin toss today.
Idlette was running at an elite level and had a decision to make on which country to represent for international competition. Her mother is from the Dominican Republic, and she felt a strong pull to the smaller, more supportive team. She joined future medal winner Felix Sanchez to run for the DR.
The team is very small. So the first team that I was on was a Pan Am team, and it was just me and Felix. And so for years, including like my first world championship, which is in Daegu in 2011, it was just me and Felix traveling around. 2012, we had a real team. It was like 12 people. It was awesome.
Idlette quickly became the best women's hurdler in history for the Dominican, and she spent a number of years representing the country around the world.
I have the national record. I've had the national record for a long time. That not being the goal anymore. Like, so I stopped going to nationals in 2011 because there isn't anybody else running my race. I wanted to have the national record. That was fine. Then I wanted to be the best in the Caribbean. So then I did that. then I'm like, okay, I want to win the Ibero championships. I did that.
Idlette qualified for the 100-meter hurdles of the 2012 London Olympic Games, representing the Dominican Republic. She headed over to London with a goal to run strong and make the finals, alongside her training partner, Kelly Wells.
I stayed in the Olympic Village. Every team stays together. And so we stayed like in a townhouse. Like the village looks like an actual village. Like, so we stayed in a townhouse. On this side is the Dominican Republic's team. And our volleyball team was really good. So they were next door to us.
The night before her first qualifying race, Idlette was up late supporting her friends from the U.S. track team, which impacted her own performance in the hurdles the next morning.
At the time, I actually have a boyfriend and he runs track. That particular boyfriend ran track. And he competed in the 100 and had to do the medal ceremony. And so I stayed up through all of that and his press and blah, blah, blah. Mind you, my race is the next morning. I have to be on the bus at 6 a.m. I don't get back to the room. Well, I don't go to sleep until around 2:30 in the morning. I take a Red Bull thinking that that's going to help. But what that does is wakes up your brain. It doesn't wake up your body. So I'm feeling hype, but like moving in slow motion, which is exactly what I looked like in that race.
Idlette didn't qualify for the next round, but Kelly Wells went on to win bronze in the event. Idlette dedicated herself to improving at her craft and making sure she was ready to seize the next opportunities. And seize them she did, winning the gold at the 2014 Ibero-American Championship in Brazil, one of the biggest achievements of her track career.
The Ibero Championship it was in Sao Paulo in 2014. Just because I had the silver from that meet 2 years before that, and it had been a long season already. I didn't know what to expect, and I somehow won. I leaned. I never leaned. So that was like, oh man, you gave it all you had here.
As a hurdler, Idlette needed an intense focus on her training and her fitness. She had to drive herself to get a little bit faster every day. We asked Idlette what motivated her in this quest.
My whole thing was always, I just wanted to prove to myself that I was world class. World class for me meant being ranked in the top 10 in the world. And so pushing to getting to world championships, getting to the Olympics, that kind of stuff, going overseas, going to Diamond League races, racing on a consistent basis, it was all about proving that you deserve to be there.
She went on to explain her mental approach as follows.
I would say that I have extreme fear of sucking at things. So I don't do things I'm not good at naturally. And if I'm going to do it, do a job, big or small, do it well or not at all. And so proving to myself that I deserve to be a place that I knew that I could be is how I live my life in general. The need to be at the top of whatever it is that I'm doing, that drives me to be like, I should be in this conversation. I know that I can do this just as good as anybody else.
Idlette continued training and running professionally after the Ibero Championship in 2014, but her heart wasn't fully committed anymore. She had graduated with a law degree from FAMU that year and had gone into business with her father in South Florida and was making progress in this new career.
Oh, I ended up getting injured. I flipped a hurdle, did something weird to my knee, and didn't go to the Olympics in 2016. And then started training again in 2017 because there was another World Championships. And that's when I really realized, like, you do not care about track enough. And it now has become a distraction to the fact that you have businesses that are doing really well.
Idlette and her father have built a successful commercial real estate operation that allows her to make money while providing value to the community.
I'm most excited about like being the kind of like the intermediary catalyst to community change. And so the investment firm that I run, where we buy apartment complexes and we revitalize them, but we don't displace tenants. So it's, for me, it's very important to be a part of a business that can make money, but also can do well for the community. And and being able to connect athletes to that cause has been really fruitful, because most of them come from these areas and they understand.
Idlette has found that she can apply her athlete mindset to winning in a new way in her business ventures.
Business is like a snowball though. So the more you do, the more momentum so you go from flipping condos to flipping houses at scale, to being able to, acquire, and it just snowballs because you meet more people, you realize that bigger exists. So on my vision board this year, I said that I want to have the largest number of doors under management by 2030.
Idlette's close friend and former teammate Wells has no doubt she will achieve those goals in business.
LaVonne is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life. Like, her level of brilliance and her level of innovation just never ceases to amaze me. And beyond that, she's such a genuine person. Like, what you see is what you get with her.
As we reach the end of this story, we asked Idlette to think back on her track career and what allowed her to beat the odds to compete at the highest level of the sport.
Being surrounded by people who were great and on the path to greatness, and they knew it purposefully. So whether it was, when I go to Kelly's house, she always does an extra 1,000 push-ups, extra 1,000 sit-ups and 100 push-ups every night, no matter what. And so being around people who were not just excited to be done with practice, but completely immersed into the execution of the sport is the little thing that took me from sometimes you run fast, sometimes you don't, to consistently running well. Because the truth is that people with talent, you always will have that flicker where it's oh man, you really performed today. But to be a great professional athlete, you have to be able to perform like that every single time. Becoming a professional is much less about performing great as it is performing consistent.
That is our story of LaVonne Idlette, track and field veteran and Olympic hurdler. Idlette is now a businesswoman with a growing portfolio of successful real estate properties and other endeavors. Idlette is also a member of the Athlete and Business Executive Group Beyond the Game Network, where she supports other athletes transitioning to life after the game while connecting with leading tech startups. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Beat the Odds and can find some inspiration and motivation in the athletic accomplishments of LaVonne Idlette. If you did, please rate and comment on our show, and please subscribe to our channel. You don't want to miss our next amazing episode.